Happy New Year!
Oh, I was going to say it.
Oh.
Happy New Year to you, mate. How are you? Did you have a nice Christmas?
Oh, God. Feels like ages ago.
I know, actually, it is, because it's nearly, well...
Because it is.
Because it is.
February this week.
But it's nice to see you. You're looking very...
When is the cut-off? You stop saying Happy New Year.
I don't know, I'm a bit
If it's in January, it's fine.
Yeah, I'm thinking so.
February, it's not right.
So you're looking very slim. What's going on?
Thank you. So are you.
No, but come on.
Oh, dry January.
Dry Jan. And you've stopped the burgers at breakfast? Stuff like
No
that.
more burgers. That's the dry bit.
You're always slim anyway. I think it's the height, you know.
No, I think December can be pretty brutal on the body, can't it?
Yeah.
It's like lunches and then entertaining.
I always do dry Jan, Feb, and maybe March, but I had my daughter's birthday, so I had to have a drink then.
Yeah.
And I actually left Neverland. So they forced me. I went out on this Friday afternoon. I thought, I'll just have a pint.
Oh, yeah, you were texting me. And over the evening, it got progressively...
And they made up this song called Papa Hugh, and then they put it on the jukebox, and it was Boney M, Daddy Cool, and it's just got more and more out of hand.
Well, I know firsthand how much you like me when I sing songs to Hugh.
Oh, don't go there.
It's all about you.
So it went on and on and on, and the lads who were there know what it was like. But a big thanks to everyone: Tom, Lloyd, Sam, Ben, Liam, Johnny, Simon, everyone. I had Lola, and I had a great time at Neverland. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's great. And then Rich and Andy came in. They stayed actually quite late as well, poor bastards, listening to me wang on. So that was another falling off the wagon. The wagon hadn't really...
How many wagons have you...
Not many. Anyway. And then I have Fionn skiing holiday as well. But so I'm...
Yeah, well, I say dry January. It finished yesterday, pretty much.
Yeah.
I'm like, done.
And your team have sort of done quite well.
The team,
down, you know, footy, Spurs.
Spurs up and down.
Don't talk about United. Fucking useless.
Lost in the cup on Friday, but
there was someone happy in my house about that. But
I bet.
But overall, so we have today. So apologies, everyone. We've been out of action a bit, but we're now back.
Hugh's been really busy. Getting on and off wagons.
Dan's just been taking over the world and being a super dad.
Work has been a bit crazy, but I'm glad we've got all these ones booked in now. We've got an amazing New Year and New Year's of guests, which is brilliant. And very excited. Starting today.
Today, Matt Lever, CCO. Very, very recently departed from B&B. Great mate, known Matt for years.
We've been trying to get him on for ages.
Yeah,
he's always been too busy.
Yeah, and he's just full of life, full of stories. Just a great guy, and does great work. Just a real joy. So I'm really, really looking forward to seeing Matt.
Good. Let's grab him.
Let's go again. Matt Lever. Welcome to Behind the Billboard.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for coming on. So we've been talking about this forever, and we finally got you on. I am going to do a bit of an Adam Buxton here, because this is like, you know,
a jingle.
Well, I could
Matt Facts. It's Matt Facts.
Well, it's not quite, but he goes Matt. He says the name of the person. So I'm going to go Matt Facts. So this
why don't I do that after every single fact? Why don't I jump in and go?
It's just an easy
Matt Fact.
So otherwise, you just end up saying the same. Anyway, look, shut up. Matt is a multi-award-winning creative who's worked at many brilliant agencies, including Wyden Kennedy Portland as creative director, VCP as deputy executive creative director, and most recently at B&B.
Matt Fact,
where he spent 5 years as CCO, presiding over some brilliant work, including Breast Cancer Now, which actually won 2 Lions last year and contributed to B&B having its most awarded year in its 18-year history. So we are not worthy. There is another bit more, Matt, coming up. I did write this quite late last night, but I'm going to just read it.
After the second bottle.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Funny, charming, with endless positive energy.
But that's enough about you.
Matt bears an uncanny resemblance to Chris Hughes from Love Island Season 3. I think only I can see this.
You've had a terrible accident.
And Matt epitomises what I feel is everything good about this industry. So that was
that's very nice. Thank you, mate.
Matt, welcome. So how are you, sir? You're looking very dapper and you're...
Well, you know, you've got to make an effort for audio recording, haven't you? No, I'm good, mate. Yeah, I'm good. I'm excited to be doing this. I'm a big fan of the pod, so it's nice to be invited on in amongst all those other luminaries who are better and more experienced.
I think you were invited on in season 1 and in season 2. and Hugh's been putting it off so we get the right moment.
Yeah, I think so. I think we've wanted you on for ages, but I think it's just fell right. The fact that I've got a bit more time on my hands, so it's great to have you. I mean, obviously, you are a great creative and you are a lovely person, but I've also spent many times with you working and in various bars around London, enjoying your company. So
working in the bars.
Waitress in a cocktail bar.
So today we're going to obviously chat billboards. We're going to squeeze in, I think, 6 campaigns, and we're going to talk around them a bit.
Brilliant.
Not just the actual work, but the background to them, because it's a show called Behind the Billboard. And in particular, TfL, I think it's going to be really interesting how you pitched that and won it. And then we're going to come up to date a little bit with the Breast Cancer Now, which is a lovely campaign anyway, but that we want to talk a bit about the chat. I know it's not a billboard thing, but again, it's just a fascinating campaign, how you did it, how you pulled it off. It was a bit of a first. So, the show's obviously about billboards, but it's also about just great work.
But before we get to that, before we get to all the great work and the amazing stuff that we're going to talk through, I've had a sneak peek of this. I'm definitely setting this up. Our regular segment of the billboard at the end of my street. And you know why we use this as a segue, but tell us about the billboard at the end of your street.
I've just seen what it says.
So I know.
I'm really sorry. I just thought it was an innocent pantomime.
No.
Matt.
So
have you seen what it says?
Things that. So I live out in Hertfordshire, and when I knew I was coming on, I thought, right, I've got to go and find the billboard at the end of my street. And the thing I was most confused about was the fact that I couldn't find a billboard at the end of my street. So I yesterday morning, in fact, I went out on a little drive and I thought, right, I'm going to find the nearest poster.
This is dedication.
I know.
I love it, mate. I'm so impressed.
And I came across this, and there were a couple of options that were. There's another poster just out of shot, which was quite peculiar about spending your ad spend in Hitchin with a weird thing. But this was the one that really stood out, and this is a 48 sheet from the Hitchin Market Theatre, advertising Beauty and this is the crucial bit, Beauty and the Big Beast, which is a regional adult panto.
Oh my God.
That's running, according to the poster, until March 2nd of March 2024. Brilliantly, they've kind of got, the cast, the Beast who looks like he should be on some kind of register, and the other people. But and also, even more brilliantly, underneath they've managed to squeeze in a few more messages, so you can also hire it for a party, that place. And there's a kids club. And there's a kids club. So mum and dad can go and watch Beauty and the Big Beast, and the kids can go off and not watch that.
When you sent it the other day, I was thinking, yeah, it's one of those out-of-date posters. I'm literally looking at it, and the subtitle says "The Adult Panto." Is this the 1970s? I mean, what the fuck? How is this?
I've always thought that is a thing that doesn't need to exist. The adult panto, Cinderella with an S.
I've just gone into the small print as well. So not only can you hire the cabaret bar for parties, or kids club weekend drama classes for ages 5 to 18. There's also the Jazz and Ukulele Club, baby classes. There's the Hub Church, and much more. New season program is coming soon.
This could be a whole episode. Should we just sack it all off and just talk about this?
I mean, I feel like we should book some tickets. I mean, I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because
does it work as a billboard? Let's just forget the content. Let's just look at it. Does it?
We're talking about it.
The weird thing about it, joking aside, is that obviously it contradicts pretty much every classic rule of a 48 sheet poster.
Yeah.
It's not simple. It's jammed with multiple messages. It's a roadside, and I've taken a dice with death standing in the middle of the road to take that photo. But if you come wide, you'll see it's on a main road. You couldn't consume anything other than Beauty and the Big Beast. I've got to stop saying it.
Yeah.
So does it work as a 48 sheet? Not in the way that we would all classically think, not in the way that we've all been trained to write them. Will it work for the Hitchin Market Theatre? Probably.
Yeah, they're probably going to go anyway, aren't they?
But I don't think it's. It looks like it's been designed by Blunkett and Wonder, doesn't it? Yeah. Really.
Can I just say? I think one of the other things that we're not really focusing on, and probably should, is that underneath the billboard, this obviously billboards are built a piece of wood. they've run out of black paint, so they just stopped painting.
I did notice that.
What? The fence?
It does make
No, it's like the stand that the billboard goes on.
it does make a nice Hertfordshire town look a bit post-apocalyptic.
Let's just not paint that bit.
What happened to that bloke who was painting the?
I also think there should be an award for the. I mean, I know we've done this a lot, but the number of typefaces on that. Was staggering.
Yeah,
I think
one,
Graham Fink bought one.
two,
He said about 7.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Also, can you take into account
Maybe 8 different.
bold caps, italics?
Just incredible.
Fucking hell, websites.
Anyway, let's leave that where it should be and
let's
deepest,
just.
darkest.
I mean, it's
Hertfordshire.
interesting. Yeah, it's interesting.
But, I mean,
But let's use it as a way to talk to you about what's happening in our industry at the moment. And I mean, we know you love posters and billboards, but let's talk about that on your way here and hitting the tube and the train.
Yeah,
Stuff you're seeing out at the moment. What's your opinion of?
I mean, I think
state
it's
of the out-of-home industry?
quite interesting because there are clearly still good bits of work knocking around as you illuminate, week in, week out, and there's some great stuff. Do you see a lot of it in the real world at the moment? I would argue probably not. I tend, and there's the whole debate around the legitimacy of out of home. Did it actually run, and has it been created as a PR stunt? And is that okay? Seems to rage on. But I think taking the tube to get here today, I didn't really see anything that I loved, and I was obviously looking.
yeah.
It feels like I've often thought this, that if you think of it as one of the last broadcast mediums, which it probably is, and it's probably a medium that allows smaller brands to get themselves out there in a legitimate way, like particularly brands who are burgeoning or looking for investment or tech startups or whatever, you can get billboards and suddenly you look legitimate and you look proper.
Yeah, we've talked to some of the direct-to-consumer brands about
Right, exactly.
and they love it because they've been an online business, and then all of a sudden they've got a poster,
Totally.
and the CMO goes down and take a picture of it in front of it. It's that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's
real.
It's interesting though, isn't it? Because what you find then is that those brands who would probably like to make something in film and like to be in very traditional media, like a lot of the tech companies often spend all their money on, are then trying to jam as many things as they can into
The billboard,
a 48 sheet campaign. So you go, okay, we want 3 posters that are going to run in however many sites in London or Manchester.
Yeah.
And they suddenly become not as bad as Beauty and the Big Beast, but they work too hard and they're not confident enough. And they don't actually start to look like brand advertising. Yeah. They start to look like confused product meets brand meets whatever. And I think that's an interesting thing. We work at a smaller agency, certainly BtB had quite a few clients who wanted to get out there and do their first above the line stuff and do their first poster campaigns, and trying to get them to understand the medium as opposed to what they wanted to get out of the messaging that they were putting forward.
Yeah.
It's really quite an interesting thing. And the best brands get it and do it. But
I can imagine it is sort of slightly dichotomous or contradictory, because you go, okay, great, I can have these posters. Right, let's fill it with shit.
Wow, loads of stuff on it.
That's not what you do. You put less stuff. And then they go, and then you're sort of stuck with that. That's a press ad, or that's a social post, or, blah, blah, blah. And then that it's hard, isn't it? Because I bet, and I understand we sit by the rules and we know how it works, but you can see from their point of view, sometimes you think, fucking hell, yeah, let me just put a few more things on.
We're paying for it. It's big investment, know, and I think it's it's completely understandable, but I think it makes you look less confident as a brand. I think it makes you look more confused as a brand. It makes you look smaller as a brand. Like the Beauty and the Big Beast has got everything on there. Then they're not going to do
It's also just an effectiveness thing.
Of course.
It's like if anyone's read the Clear Channel Powerful Posters work, it's really, really good. And they spent a lot of time and effort with the creative industry talking about what makes a powerful poster, and putting that in front of a CMO of a brand is really important when you're presenting an idea. So actually, if you invest in this medium, do it right, the effectiveness scores on your media and creative go through the roof.
Absolutely. And I think in a way, maybe agencies should be a little better at encouraging people not to make posters and billboards until the time is right for them to have that confidence and do it well. Yeah. Because otherwise they're wasting their money, aren't they?
I mean, there's a tipping point. I remember when I was at Saatchi's, Ajab Singh used to call it the dab of shit. And it was like, because you go, okay, we'll give you that one. We'll make, you know, I don't know, save the logo bigger or put a website on, and then there'll be another thing like, oh, can we have like a, you know, and I think, as we all know, there's a point after which you go, right, you fucked it now. But I think there's a bit of give and take, isn't there? Really, it should be 3 elements, you know, but you can probably get away with a bit more. People forgive if it's a really good idea, don't they? But then after a while, you go, he should have bought some press ads.
But I think you're right there, Matt. Though. It's like, you know, keep them away from it until the time is right with the message. And that's I think we had a client come to us who'd seen the work, the special build work that we'd done with Specsavers, which was amazing, and it was won loads of awards. And but you know, that was built on 25 odd years of using that line. They've got a legacy of an incredible investment in advertising over that time. TV ads, it's in, you know, it's on perimeter boards, it's in our
you know, it's in Coronation Street, it's a turn of phrase, so, you know, whatever.
Just in our everyday language, so they could legitimately go up there and do that on a billboard, and people get it straight away. Yeah. This brand had none of that. New brand, completely new service, cloud-based business, which
is confusing anyway. What does that even mean?
Like, you don't have the brand story to do that yet, so you have to build. And
I think
it ended up falling over because I think they worked that out for themselves as well.
Yeah, at probably quite a high cost, presumably.
Yeah.
Have you seen anything that, you know, might win big at the awards this year? I'm trying to think, because where are we? We're late Jan. So I suppose all the entries are flying in now, aren't they? For what, D&AD, Creative Circle? Can you remember? Because I suppose we just did a roundup of the year at Christmas about all the good work.
Yeah,
and there's sort of, you do suddenly realize, you know, we always go, oh, not much good work, blah, blah, but then actually after a while when you dig in, you go, actually there was quite a lot of good, you know, but you just it never feels like there's loads. But
I thought I quite liked that Vinterius stuff.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's been through the awards cycle yet. That was good. I think the Mother Blue bag is a IKEA big blue bag. I don't know if that's been through it yet. I think that's really interesting. I quite like the evolution of the BA campaign.
Yeah,
as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. We're trying to do a thing on that.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, I think that's maybe we'll talk about that a bit later on, but I think that's quite an interesting example of, you know, a tip that I would give to creatives. Maybe we'll talk about it in a bit, but yeah.
You talked at the beginning there about also the kind of if it actually happened and whether it was just a social post or if it was faked. And the CGI stuff that we're seeing right now is in that realm. You're seeing CGI hitting your timelines of things that could have happened out of home, and AI is helping power that because it's easier to create that stuff than actually doing it for real. There's a lot of discussion in the industry around two parts: is the kind of brand health of doing something not for real, and is there going to be an impact on people's perceptions of a brand for faking it? But also owners of buildings. So North Face have famously done something with Big Ben, where it looks like Big Ben's wearing one of their big puffer jackets. But someone owns the image rights to Big Ben. Someone owns the image rights to Piccadilly Circus and the Piccadilly Lights. Land Securities are the landlords. And if they see things that are posted online of the facade of their building, they are actively now getting them removed.
Are they? Yeah.
So you have to seek permission if you're going to do something in the public space. And it's just that's a kind of, you know, brands looking to invest in CGI are going to have to factor in the legal implications. Of both of those things.
Sorry, you just made me think then, is it going to be like footballers?
Yeah.
And they have their rights. So should all the landmarks, did you see the Angels of the North, by the way?
JD Sports.
JD Sports.
That was Uncommon as well.
So I wasn't sure if that was a fucking massive bag or a comp or whatever. It's been there, it's out, come back, isn't it? But like you say, could you then go, right, you have to take it down?
Well, so did someone seek Anthony Gormley's permission?
Well, of course he's going to
almost certainly not, yeah. I think it's interesting because my thing is, I think that obviously we all know the hardest thing about working in this industry is getting the things actually made.
Yeah.
You know, that everyone's got, think of the countless, you've all got countless, every creative team in the world, every creative director, every CCO has a bottom drawer, if drawers still existed, bulging with things that would have won loads of awards.
Bottom folder.
Yeah, exactly. And I sort of think there's a few things, because I think faking it, if you're up front and you're doing that as a creative decision, if you're doing something in AI that appears somewhere that's a PR stunt that's going to run on social, if you're upfront in the way that you do that, imagine if whoever did whatever, look at this thing we've done. I kind of forgive that. I think that's okay. But I think if I was a media owner, I wouldn't be very happy about it because it completely devalues that.
I think that's where it's starting now. In the out-of-home industry, the media owners are kind of...
I think it does. I mean, we were working on BtB. We're going to talk about a couple of campaigns later for Gymbox. And they got in a bit of hot water
with the bus
thing.
Yeah.
And we weren't involved in that and not privy to that happening. And the client had to he's a really good client, fun guy, Rory, had to hold his hands up and go, oh yeah, we faked it. And you sort of go, well, if you'd have been up front and said, I'm not saying they can't, but if you'd have gone, we can't afford expensive bus advertising, but imagine this, it's quite a funny idea, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think people would go, that's quite funny. It's disposable. It's on LinkedIn. It's on Instagram. Move on with your life. Yeah. But I think what people don't like, and to your point about brand health, what devalues a brand is where you appear disingenuous and you appear like you're trying to pull the wool over people's eyes.
Passing it off as
exactly.
real. Yeah.
I'll tell you what. I think if you're up front, you can probably get away with things.
Can't you? Fake it massively.
I'll tell you what's interesting though.
Absolutely.
We did it with Pepsi Max with the bus stop, making it look like aliens.
Exactly.
Attacking
exactly.
Tiger
That's part of the idea. But I think also it is in a way a backhanded compliment to the industry because no one's faking press ads, no one's faking radio ads, no one's faking TV ads. It is that thing like you're saying, if it's in the world, then...
The whole point of that, though, is because it's in the out-of-home space, it's legitimate, it's really real, it really happened. So I think that they're jumping on the back of the real, but doing it with fake.
Well, it's more exciting, isn't it? But anyway...
We could go on for
ages.
We could probably save that for
the
Dave,
whole thing is essentially
AI.
Aside from the AI thing, it basically means you could buy a single poster site, do whatever you wanted on it, and just use Instagram and social as your PR mechanism, which loads of brands obviously do. Yeah. But again, it's a bit of a house of cards, isn't it? Because is it?
There's one example that I've seen recently that I actually really liked, and it was for a mixer. I can't remember which one it was, but there was a mural site and they had the mural with the mixer on there. And then it looks like a hand grabs the mixer and pours it into a taxi's coming past with a glass on the top and it pours it into the glass.
Right.
And okay, they've actually bought the site. They've done the mural. It's cool. And then they've added the rest of it. And I think
that's allowed, isn't it?
Actually, you've mixed the out-of-home real and the out-of-home fake together for a social post, and that's all cool.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we need to get it. It's like the blend of real and...
It also, like, I don't know if you said it, but it sort of denigrates and belittles the people who are trying to do it for real, who are trying to come up with the idea, get it sold, get it on the right media. Like, just this morning, obviously this will be in a week's time, but the Holocaust Day, and to have got that idea away, the 6 million candles, it's just phenomenal.
Yeah.
And it's such an achievement for them at St. Luke's and blah, blah, blah. But you kind of go, if someone just mocked it up, you'd go, oh, fuck's sake.
You see that a lot, don't you, on things like LinkedIn? You see people putting their concepts for brands up.
Yeah.
And you kind of go, well done. You've had an idea.
But there's lots of people out there who've got jobs on the back of that.
I'm sure there are.
It's
yeah,
a great job interview,
but it's not real, is it?
It's not real.
And I think the problem is I've always sort of thought, as a creative, particularly, that you have to be really honest about your involvement with pieces of work and whether it's real, because if not, you will get found out.
Yeah.
And it'll be awful for you.
And it'll be awful because you'll get yourself into a position where you aren't able to do the things that you've purported to be able to do. And that doesn't make for a happy career, does it?
Yeah, and I think I think what you said there, Hugh's exactly right as well. I think the craft that we all put into this is impacted by the fake stuff. And you go, okay, look, it took our account people this long to sell it in. It took it went through 6 rounds of iterations.
Absolutely,
to get this to this level.
Yeah, I think it's. I think your point, earlier, is really interesting about. There needs to be a moment where it's called out properly, officially, not like, you shouldn't be doing like us three sitting here, but you should have like,
they do it on TV advertising. When they've got advertorials sitting in the advert. So Gogglebox do it all the time. They basically pay the Gogglebox people. This is an advertisement, not part of the show. It will end up with that. There'll be some sort of online regulation where you say
we need to move on. Right. So Matt. We're going to talk about your first billboard, and you've over-delivered again. We've got 2. Talk us through the first one, which you call your first accidental billboard.
So this is, I completely ignored the brief to bring two. What's your first billboard? Bring two. But this is
first and second.
This is a strange one because this is, as I said, my first sort of accidental billboard. And Helen Rhodes, my old creative partner of 14 years, and I were doing a placement at an agency called Campbell Doyle Dye, which was a startup from Dave.
We know Dave Dye very well.
So Dave Dye really well. Dave Dye, Sean Doyle, and Walter Campbell, famously of Guinness surfer fame. Yeah. And we were in there on placement. And they were pitching for a very, very expensive whiskey brand called the Macallan, which I'd never heard of. This is 20 odd years ago, but bumpkin from Bristol. That's like 250 quid a bottle, and it's basically aimed at what we now call the 1%ers. It's the sort of it's the whiskey you buy if you haven't got anything else to spend your money on. Right. Apparently, it's very nice. So Dave and Sean had written a pitch campaign. Which was basically very sort of dry tone, talking about the exclusivity of the product. Loads and loads of different lines that spoke to the value of this sort of precious liquid.
Yeah.
Helen and I were asked to work on it because they wanted obviously a giant pile of ads, and we wrote a load of stuff, and it was actually really great. It's one of the I can remember this for the rest of my career. But we went in to see Dave. I don't know where Sean was. We went to see Dave with a giant pile of scamps, you can imagine.
Yeah.
And basically, Dave had taken care of most of the art direction. So Hels and I were just writing lines. Yeah. Giles Revell, I think, shot the.
Yeah.
Which is really lovely.
Beautiful shot.
And we go in, and it's that classic story. You hear it a lot. He gets the big pile, and he's just reading them himself, not out loud, and just putting them face down on the desk, face down. I'm thinking, shit, this pile's too big for it to be on this pile.
Always.
And then he gets to this one line, which was a Christmas gift from the MD. Aren't you glad you hired him? So obviously a little misdirect that, what does the person who's even higher up than the person who runs the company by the person who runs the company, blah, blah, blah. And he just stopped and he looked at us and he went, which is a funny question. He went, did you write this? And we were like, rude. Well, yeah, but we were like, well, yeah, we've just come in. Here they are. And he sort of popped it into a different pile, and we thought, oh, here we go, we're in. And we did a load of stuff for it, and loads of them ran. But they mostly ran in sort of posh print, I suppose, whether it was The Economist or, things too posh for me to read. Anyway, I thought nothing more of that apart from the fact that it meant that we got to stay there for 9 months on a sort of extended thing and learn loads from those two brilliant people.
Yeah, it must have been. I was going to say, was it like working with Ronaldo, Messi and Zidane?
It was. Walt was off shooting this big commercial, so we didn't spend a lot of time with him. But Sean and Dave, particularly for me as a writer, Sean, he's such a good writer and so prolific and quick and unpretentious that you just sort of just sat and watched him and talked to him as much as I could. And the ads we wrote in that 9 month period, I think it really talk about a boot camp. You think going to Watford College is a boot camp, but that was like Jesus. Plus the standard is so high, they just wouldn't accept anything that wasn't really good, and in a way, probably we pitched a lot and didn't win as many as you would expect them to win, and probably because the work was so good and uncompromising and whilst not probably good for that business, it was really good for me and Hels because we got to learn what the level is.
Yeah.
And that meant that when we moved and went to TWA, we were really match fit and we got hired very, very quickly into our first job, but we'll come on to that in a minute. But this print campaign, I'd somehow managed to scrape together a few £100 and I'd gone on holiday to New York with my then girlfriend. Yeah. It was Christmas. I think we were still at the agency, I think. Anyway, and this is why it's my first accidental billboard, because we came out of this really shitty one-star hotel on it was a one-star hotel. And we turned right, and it was about 100 yards from Broadway. And we turned onto Broadway, and I was like, that's my ad. And there was whatever the equivalent of a 6-sheet is, the little ones on the other side of a bus stop that are about...
What are they called, Dan?
You know the ones I mean. You know the ones I mean.
Shelters.
Yeah, sort of phone boxes. Yeah. Was that ad, obviously it had been slightly re-art directed to make the headline bigger because you wouldn't be able to read it.
Because America.
And so I'm like some weirdo standing next to this is pre-camera phones, standing next to this poster, like a little competition winner pointing at it. And I can't find the photo. I was looking in the loft, but I can't find it. Send it. I will do. But yeah, that was the first accidental one. And I really like that. They also changed the headline to CEO from MD because over there MD is medical doctor. Which wouldn't have made a Christmas gift from the doctor. Does that make any sense?
So loaded doctor.
So that was the accidental one. But then the first one that I remember doing with Hells. I was at TBWA. As I said, we'd moved there from Campbell Dye, and we were lucky because it was Trevor Beattie was running it still at that point. Paul Silburn was deputy ECD. Ben Priest and Brian Campbell were there. Tony McTeer was there. Wow. Chris and John, who went on, they were the team above us, the most junior after us. It was just a raft of brilliant people. And we didn't really realise at the time, we'd worked for Walter, Sean and Dave, and then for all those people. You think, Christ,
it's not bad.
Straight in the Champions
It's really good, really good. Intimidating, but really good. Anyway, the first poster we did was for a PlayStation game called The Getaway, which I'm not much of a gamer, but it was basically a violent video game, Grand Theft Auto type vibes, but set in London. So the idea that we had was a shot of a Getty image, as it turned out, of the Thames from Canary Wharf winding off down into the city, but the river was running with blood rather than water.
It's actually a great shot. And
yeah, I mean, I think you can see the retouching quadrant quite where it is now. Yeah, But I think as a concept, I think it works pretty well.
Yeah, well, these days it would have been done in CGI and it would have been
3 minutes. Very easy. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that was the first one. And then obviously we did what every young creative team does and went around and found all the sites and took photos of it. And
excellent.
Did you? It must have been quite sort of, dare I say, prophetic sitting there with Trev. And then, I suppose your brain couldn't have thought in sort of like 10, 15 years, I'll be running his agency.
No,
that's mental.
It was really strange because obviously I think we were there. So BnB started in 2005. So we'd been there for about 2 years when they left to do the agency.
But you obviously got on well with him?
Yeah, really liked Trev. We got on really well with him. He was so busy, he didn't see much of him, but luckily he had that bench of amazing CDs underneath him. Yeah. But he went off to do BnB, and loads of the people from TBWA, whether it's account people or planners would gradually, and clients would gradually migrate over to BnB. So I always had one foot in that agency through friends and stuff. Like I knew the MD really well. Yeah. Friend Dan. Yeah. So when the opportunity came up to go there, even though Trev had kind of left by that point, you can get that sort of tick of ratification, which is, we used to work with Matt Lever, didn't you? Yeah. And obviously, you probably went, I vaguely remember him. Don't think he was horrible. Tick. But yeah, it was quite weird to kind of come full circle. It's a nice story.
Yeah, it's brilliant. You've touched actually upon the other stuff, but we just want to have a quick mention about Watford because of shared experience and our much missed friend, Tony Cullingham, who was our tutor. So that's where you met Helen Rhodes, is that right?
So Helen and I, 2001, we started at Watford, and back then it was, sorry, you were going to say?
No, I was going to say, so I met Adam Scholes at Watford, but I didn't end up partnering within about a year or two after. But some teams partnered on the course and then became, did you partner with her on the course?
Yeah, so there were 30 of us, and we were the first team to team up and the only team to stay together.
Oh, right.
And Tony would do that brilliant Tony thing, which you try and destabilise the teams and try and work with everybody and just try and put the cat amongst the pigeons.
Did he do some matchmaking then? Was it a kind of...
we found each other.
Right, okay.
I think the secret to the longevity, we worked together for 14 years, was that it was based on just being mates and having a laugh first and foremost. Because we'd teamed up in maybe October, November at Watford, which is early. Yeah. Not knowing what the hell we were doing, but just got on really, really well. And I think had very, very similar sense of humour, very, very similar work ethics. Yeah. And I think with advertising, like if you do Watford and you go and do a load of placements, you will learn how to write ads and you'll learn hopefully how to be good if you've got a bit of something about.
And learn together as well. If you're mates, you can bounce together. Off each other. Yeah.
And we were always, I think our relationship was always more important than the job or the way we were being treated by a creative director. And we always would just have that thing of like, well, fuck it, it's us two. We'll go and work somewhere else if we need to, or well, they're horrible. We won't go back there. Yeah. And I think it was really healthy and useful. And it's the happiest years of my career we're working with Hells. But
she's a love. I mean, I worked with her at the BBC and I work with you obviously, and I can see you're both. Well, you're great people, but you have that similar vibe. You have that warmth and humour, and not getting too. You're right. I remember that thing. You don't want to. I've been working at Neverland, and there's a lovely lad there called Sam, and he's on his own, and I've been working sort of with him. But you get to that point where you get so much advice, from your creative director, from your account man, your client, but then I just said, but you got to decide what you want to do, or what you want to make. And I remember me and Adam, we used to go and write a book, and but our brains be about exploding. They said that, and then we went, what do we want to do?
Yeah,
you and Hal strike me like.
Yeah, we were very very driven. And I think probably far more driven than our outward demeanour suggested. Because we used to have a right laugh. We had a really good time together. We were fun, hopefully, to work with and to be around and stuff. But that was always underpinned by a secret drive that we wanted to, you don't work for Sean and Dave and Sylvan and Trev and all those people and not think I'd love to have a quarter or a tenth of the success that they've had. And I think it's a good model for the industry. I think you shouldn't take yourself too seriously. I think you should be really, really serious about your work and really serious about the way you conduct yourself.
Yeah.
But it's not, the cliches, we're not making parachutes.
Yeah.
You've got to have a good time.
Yeah.
Spend all your time at work.
Yeah.
Why are you taking yourself so seriously? I don't get it.
Yeah.
So I think be brilliant, hold yourself to account, but don't be a dick while you're doing it and try and have a good time because it is, we're talking about posters and telly ads and fun shit that should be brilliant.
Yeah.
I think you see people who take it...
Well, we're not saving lives unless we go on to the anti-smoking one.
Yeah, people take it far too seriously in the wrong ways, I think.
Dan's just done a very good segue.
That was a lovely segue.
Thanks for noticing.
Very good.
Hugh clicked the deck on and Hugh sprang gazelle-like up, a little meerkat.
So we aren't saving lives, well, but sort of we are trying to save lives, actually weird. So we're going to talk about, you went to Miles Calcraft, Brigginshaw Duffy, a great agency with some brilliant people who have gone on to make even more fame at Lucky Generals. But this was one of the early campaigns from them and from you, the anti-smoking campaign. So I just wanted to say, I remember seeing a bit of this or being aware of it, and it was someone saying, "Hey, mum, don't smoke," and it was the kid, and I was thinking, "Oh, that's quite clever," but I had no idea about this story, about the billboards.
Yeah.
If you could tell us a bit about it.
Yeah, definitely. So this was a campaign called Real Kids, originally called Real Kids.
Right.
Not very original because it was about real kids.
Yes.
And basically Andy Nairn, who's the founding partner of Lucky Generals and was the CSO over at MCBD, had found this fact that, you bang on about telling people to give up smoking and they go, yeah, I won't die, don't worry about it, it's fine. And they don't do it. But as soon as they think their child is impacted emotionally, worried about them or whatever, that is a very, very compelling screw to turn because people think, Christ, if my 7-year-old is worried that I'm going to not be around when they're 15, I'm putting them through heartache and emotional turmoil and all that sort of stuff. So basically the idea that Hals and I had was that we would find the real children of actual smokers around the country and we would use them and use the media in the campaign to speak directly to their parents in the media that those parents consumed. So like you say, Hugh, there was a telly ad that ran during Coronation Street. A little girl says, "Hey, mum, I know you watch Coronation Street.
Brilliant.
I just wanted to tell you something. I'm really worried about you smoking, blah, 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 blah." Heat magazine. "Hey, mum, I know you read Heat. Hey, dad, I know you read The Sun," whatever. And then the outdoor campaign was a similar construct, but ads that ran in media placements in the children's local areas around the country, with the children saying, "Oh, hey, mum, I know you use this station," or whatever.
Yeah, one says, "Hello, mum, I know you walk past here. That's why I thought it'd be a good place to say don't smoke. I'm scared you're going to die." And then it's outside Hammersmith, and there's a picture of the child in the poster and with her mum. It's brilliant. It's just so good.
Yeah, so I mean, it was good. It was an interesting one to do because obviously I don't know that people were doing that much of that kind of tactical kind of placing things in interesting ways. And I think obviously the reality is that by putting an ad there, you speak to every parent that walks past, don't you? Because immediately, as a parent, you empathise with other parents and other kids. So I think again, it was a good client to sort of buy it and understand the idea.
It's quite shocking that the films they're good because they're slightly clumsy. Because the children are just saying it.
Because they're real kids.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, Jim Gilchrist shot those films and he was amazing. He went and met child psychotherapists in order that he could find the best way to get children to, open up emotionally and also to find the right probing questions, which I thought was really amazing to bother to do that.
It's a great piece.
Yeah, it did very, very, very well results-wise, which is good. So that was good. That was Real Kids. And then the next year we did a similar idea. So, still talking to parents and using their children as a kind of lever, for want of a self-reference. But this time we went for a slightly different approach, which was talking about the actual danger of passive smoke in the home, and the fact that a lot of it is invisible. So this was a little campaign that we did that Nadav Kanda shot, and it was supposed to visualize the physically threatening risks that exposing your children to smoke in the house can have. So you've got some really affecting sort of Nadav portraits of two really cute kids.
Right.
And then they are essentially being either suffocated or throttled by this ethereal arm that represents the smoke that's coming to them. And it's quite interesting, this one, because this was one, when you're trying to get something out of the door and it's like you're just desperately trying to get out in the way that you want to get out, but you can't quite do it. This was one of those, because it was supposed to be just the arm painted and designed as a sort of more of a kind of metaphorical representation of the threat. But at the last minute, there was a little bit of cold feet, and we ended up having to retouch in that kind of sort of smoky thing. It was supposed to just be, and I think they still work really well.
I think they've got great. I had no idea that.
I think they would have been, in a way, they would have been artier, which I like the idea of, but perhaps they wouldn't have been as.
Didn't that have shoot that arm as well?
So he found a hand model, the size of that hand. He found the biggest guy he could find, because the kids, I guess, kids are like 6, 7, 8.
It's really
it was pretty. I mean, the ones where it was just the arm were pretty visceral. The worry was that people wouldn't make the link. But
I've always wanted to work with Nadav Kanda. Still not there, but there's still a chance. What was it like? Amazing.
He was brilliant. He just knew exactly what he wanted to do. He went to his studio, which I think is in Camden or something. I'm not sure if he's still there.
Right.
And it was that brilliant thing where obviously all his work's everywhere. I think he owns the building so it's quite. He's really into cycling, so he was sort of bedecked in Rafa before that was a thing.
Yeah.
And he just got back from shooting Ricky Gervais, who I used to be a really big fan of. Right. Sort of, it's just, you could fit, the vibe was there, definitely. And he was a pleasure to work with. He knew exactly what he wanted. Yeah. And he, you don't get somebody like that to do your shots or your film and then try and direct them, do you? Because that would be mental.
Yeah.
So he was really, really good and very, very, collaborative up to a point in terms of, taking our input. And I think he cast them incredibly well, particularly the little boy. I think
the boy's amazing. Yeah, it's really affecting. I've got to say, even if you ran those now, they would be brilliant.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I think it was a shame that we didn't get a chance to even see them with the just the arm. But I kind of take the client's point in hindsight. But I think we lost him a little bit when that decision was made, and fair enough.
So we're going to. We're going to jump continent, I think, really. I mean, after this, you're obviously flying high with Helen. I'm doing a little bit of my timeline thing here. And we must mention your time at DLKW Low as creative directors, where you created 2 fantastic bits of work. I watched them both again last night. There's a Christmas ad for Morrison's, which is one of the greatest, I still think it's one of the greatest Christmas ads ever.
Thanks.
Honest to God, it's funny. It's fucking bang on. The casting's amazing. It was so well shot. I mean, I don't know if you get away with it now. Everyone just wants to see a big fucking table of food groaning.
It was interesting. I think it's 2012, so I don't think it, like the Christmas ad as a thing wasn't as much of a thing as it is now. Yeah. And it was kind of, John Lewis had started doing them and everyone was starting to cotton on to that. And we managed to get that away. But
did you shoot? Was it a cyanide?
Cyanide shot, they made I think they made a 10-day shoot, made a great job of it.
My favourite, so many favourite shots, but she's on the pile of sprouts and she goes, whose idea was it to put crosses in these? And then she someone's opening the cupboards going, where is everything? And it's just like, it's like a fucking, nightmares that never end.
Well, I mean, it's just, it came from a really simple idea, which was just sort of, Christmas is brilliant. I mean, actually, I wasn't even a parent when Helen and I wrote that, but pardon me, when you look back, I think to myself, everyone looks really harangued in the sort of 6 weeks leading up to it. The day's brilliant, but it's a nightmare, isn't it? You have to go and buy all these presents and decorate the house, and everyone wants to come and visit, even if you don't want them to, and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. So we're like, why don't we do an ad, which is The Truth? It was called The Truth, which was like, let's just tell it how it is. It's a fucking nightmare, but it's worth it in the end. And when you walk into that room with that amazing, the classic groaning table, and everyone's happy and everyone's together and no one's whinging at each other, hopefully, and people are pulling crackers and, the joy is there, it is worth it. Yeah. And those 6 weeks evaporate. And it's, acknowledging the hardships and the truth and the slog, but the benefits far outweigh it. And I think
It's very brave.
I think it was quite brave, and I think also for Morrison's at the time, they didn't really I think they were doing quite a lot of. It was like Bruce Forsyth on a big wheel type Christmas ads, sort of Woolies-ish, kind of things.
Yeah.
So they hadn't really done anything that you would consider a inverted commas ideary ad.
Yeah.
And so the fact that the client bought it and to credit to, Rich Denny and Dave Henderson for getting that through and
then
Tom Hudson as well, who credited it.
You also, though, there was a lovely light and shade because you were involved in the Marie Curie film, Life and Death, the mirroring, the Tom Tagome. Again, I watched that and I felt incredibly emotional because my mum died of cancer, and I believe in Marie Curie a lot. She was there at the end, and so I had that sort of personal thing. But then I remember the film being really good. I thought, I wouldn't mind watching it again, and it has that lovely. So it's something about being. What's the line about treating as in your birth and your death?
Your final moment should be as important as your first, or something.
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
It's the idea that everyone reveres, kids' first steps. Everyone reveres it. Everyone's first kiss stays with you forever. But actually, the things that happen at the end of your life, your final steps, the final kiss to your loved one, whatever, don't get the love, care, and attention that it deserves. But Marie Curie exists to make those dignified.
And it was a real truth for my mum at the end. It was only without getting too emotional. Anyway, so that was your bit at DLKW loads. But then so this is the big thing for me. Like, this is like the plot point. You go, right, fuck this. Let's go to Wine & Kennedy in Portland, right?
Well, if only it had been that simple.
Tell us why, because no one does that.
Well, no. So so the Morrison's ad is worth talking about, considering this is a podcast about billboards, and that is clearly a film. But that was the reason that we went to Portland, and basically we got a LinkedIn message after that sort of started getting picked up.
Right, the film. Yeah,
the film got picked up. Yeah. So this is probably October, November of the year that it was on for Christmas, so 2012. We got a LinkedIn message from someone who was a recruiter at Wieden Kennedy Portland, saying, we'd never heard of, obviously, this person saying, we really love your Morrison's spot. Susan Hoffman and Mark Fitzloff, the ECDs, would really be interested in chatting to you. And we immediately thought that it was a piss take, because we thought that Chris and John, our mates from TWA, who went on to be brilliant, Fallon, Channel 4, when they left, we stitched them up at their leaving and bought them like a male stripper and various silly things you wouldn't get away with now.
Oh, you were
so I thought,
payback.
and then I think we'd actually got them booked. They were doing book crits, and we'd booked in a fictional team to come and see them, and done this email account about 2 Russian models who'd become creatives and wanted to book crit, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we'll meet them," and they didn't exist, and blah 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 blah. Anyway, so we immediately thought, "Oh, they've got to be. Cannot be real. How does the greatest creative agency potentially ever, certainly in the last few years, know about a northern British supermarket ad that's not running the..." So we're thinking, so suspicious. But we sort of hunted, Lauren Ranky, her name was, and we hunted her down and made sure that she was real, and she was real. And we ended up going over to Portland that December, sort of under cover of darkness, to meet the agency. And yeah, they offered us a job, and then we went.
Fucking hell. Because I just
It's a big decision, big life decision.
Well, it was in hindsight, massive. I don't know what I was thinking. So I promise this is true, right? So when we went for the interview, my wife was my now wife, who only became my wife because we had to get married in order that she could get a visa to go to Portland. Romance is not dead. She was 8 months pregnant when we went for the interview. And in hindsight, I think it was, what on earth was I thinking? And I think if it had been any other agency in the world, probably that would have been not a clever, good, intelligent move. It would have been a selfish move. But I think you can't turn them down, So anyway, so we went, and then we got offered the job. And I promise this is true. We got offered the job at about 5 a.m. The email came through, and I was walking in to the delivery suite of the hospital with my wife for our first child. And I saw it come up on my phone and just went, probably won't mention that for a few days. Put the phone away. And yeah, so I mean, good old Nat, bless her heart. I mean, I can't believe that she did it. I can't believe I made her do it. But you can't, there's certain things in your career that I hate the sliding doors thing. But there are certain moments when you can't turn things down.
Did you all pack off and go to Portland?
Yeah.
A newborn.
So we went with a 5-month-old baby, little Lils, who's actually 11 today.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. I mean,
in fact, that means that it was 11 years ago today that I was offered the job at Wieden Kennedy Portland. There you go. I hadn't even thought of that.
Thank God we had flapjacks.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
no candles.
Well, that's after. We're going to do the candles in a minute, won't we, Jan? I always do like 11 of football analogies. I don't know if you've spotted, but it's a bit like there's not enough English or British players who go abroad and then come back better. Players like Lineker was one. Harry Kane's obviously abroad and Bellingham at the moment, but they're few and far between. And I always think creatives are better equipped to deal with their career if they've been away. Like you just have that demeanour of you've been there, you've seen it, you've done it. I don't know, like Dan's saying, it must have been, like you said, you laugh about it, but you must have gone, yeah, fuck it, I really want to do this. So it is taking the industry seriously, knowing.
I think it was we just, the second that it even became an option, Helen and I were like, well, we've got to do this. We have got to do this. Yeah.
And did you put a time limit on it? Did you say, right, let's go and do it for?
Yeah, I mean, it was a 3-year visa, and
right, okay.
we agreed, my wife and I, that we would definitely go for 2. Bless her, I'll do 2, but if after 2 we want to come back, then I was like, well, that's fine. And we did come back after 2, and Hell stayed for 5 years.
So, what was it like?
Do you know what?
Because we've got one campaign we could talk about, but generally, was it?
This is the funny thing, isn't it? I've always sort of said this to teams afterwards. If ever there was a way, we were working at DLKW Low. Now, DLKW Low was a merger of Low, an agency renowned for great creative work, brilliant ads through the years, and DLKW, which was more seen as a business populist. Howard from the Halifax, sort of big, they came together, and obviously Rich and Dave came in to try and take it on. Now, it wasn't the sexiest agency that London had by any stretch of the imagination, but what I always think, and I always say this to teams, is when Helen and I got off the plane in Portland, we were exactly the same creative team. We didn't get any better when we got off the plane to go to Portland. We didn't get any worse. You're the creative you are, right? But where you work has such an impact on your ability to get out the kind of work that you want to do.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So if you ask what Wyden and Kennedy Portland was like, I would say big. It was 1,000 odd people. But I would say it was the standard. It's exactly what you'd expect. There are no secrets. The work comes first. It's written on the wall. Right. They don't compromise on that. They're in a wonderful position financially because they've got Nike as a founding client, so they can afford to not do bad adverts for rubbish clients.
Yeah.
But in reality, all it is a brilliant place that prioritizes the work. And it's no more complicated than that. But obviously it's enshrined in the fact that it's in the Pacific Northwest. It's away from Adland in America. I think that's a really real benefit. It's not worried about
what's happening down the road.
No, it doesn't give a shit about that. It does what it does. Yeah. And it's absolutely stocked to the gills with brilliant people. And when you go in there, it's so, not intimidating is the wrong word because they're all really nice.
But they come from all over
the place.
All over the place. To Portland.
Portland for that thing. So everyone who's there means it and wants to do it.
And if you contrast that with what happens in New York, lots of people go into New York and then they bounce around agencies. And
exactly.
It's different.
And it's a life choice, I think, probably, particularly, for expat people. But other than that, it's just a very, very high standard. And what it makes you realise, I think, is that, well, 2 things. I think the benefit of working abroad, particularly in a market like America, is that the budgets are bigger.
Yeah.
And even if the budget on a particular ad isn't bigger, it hasn't got to last for 3 years. If it doesn't work, they'll bin it off and do something else because they've got the money to do it, which means that there's less pressure that everything's got to be perfect and last for 3 years. Oh, yeah. Which is really liberating because they'll try things that perhaps an agency here can't afford to.
Yeah. None of this like, what's year 5? So,
yeah, exactly. We should go, we'll just do a new campaign in 3 months' time because we can find another $1 million to make another few spots.
Yeah, and you were working into, we said on the phone the other day when we were chatting about the Old Spice guys.
Yeah, right? And this was the one thing I would say is important if you go and work in America is that obviously they operate a group system much more than we do here. So each of the CD teams at Wyden Kennedy Portland, who would all be ECDs anywhere else in the world,
right,
have their own department essentially who work on all their accounts. What normally happens is that if you get hired by one of them.
Right.
We were sort of anomalous to that because Mark Fitzloff and Susan had seen the Morrison's ad, and weirdly Mark had judged another spot that we did at MCBD that had picked up in Cannes, and they had a rule that if you had 2 bits of work that they like, you're in. You just need to be able to do it twice and then you can come. Anyway, so we went there without a CD team,
right,
which meant we sort of turned up and they were like, oh fuck yeah, we should probably find you some people to work into, shouldn't we?
Right.
Which was really tricky because we sort of ping-ponged around a load of CDs not having filled a role. They just hired us because they could.
Right.
So that's an important thing to think about. So we were a bit sort of minister without, well, not even minister without portfolio, minister without friends in high places for a few months. But then we sort of started to go around and work for people, and we worked, as you said, into Jason Bagley and Craig Allen, who Jason creative directed The Man Your Man Can Smell Like, and obviously Craig wrote it. And yeah, we found ourselves with them, which was an experience.
And so you ended up doing these Trident posters, some very interesting headlines here. Was this a lot of fun to work on, or was it a brief out of the blue? Or
yeah, I mean, this was a bit of an out of the blue one. So they'd made some telly ads, and they didn't have any print. I think the team was off doing the telly and had sort of disregarded the outdoor, as sometimes happens. So they were like, right, you've got a bit of spare time. Can you work on this? And basically, the idea was that Trident Gum had tooth protecting qualities that people didn't know about, aimed at really young, sort of off kind of unconventional teenagers and sort of people, in their early 20s. So we had to sort of talk about the end line they'd already written was super useful, but basically it's how do you tell people who don't care about advertising or have any interest in consuming it that this gum can help your teeth in a way that's stupid enough.
So I like white teeth, a surefire way to distract attention from your prosthetic hand.
Never get made now, would it?
I was going to say that's a very Matt Lever headline. During photos, you want people to say cheese, not his teeth look like cheese. I mean, it was a field day, was it?
It's ridiculous. Actually, I mean, I like
the dentist one.
Yeah.
No one really knows what dentists get up to when the anaesthetic kicks in.
I quite like. My favourite is sparkly white teeth. The perfect way to hide the sadness in your eyes. But again, middle America, stupid young people's ads, just funny. But again, just going back quickly to what's it like to work at Wides in Portland. To have CDs that you take that nonsense, this is nonsense, gibberish, silliness, to take it in and then just go, oh, they're good.
Offering Trident Gum to attractive strangers reduces their chances of getting cavities and your chances of getting maced.
Do you know what?
Public service, this.
I can feel the CD, working at CDD, working at Trev, all that kind of craft of writing headlines. It really paid it off. Here, listen, we're going to have to move on because we're running out of time a bit. We've got two more chunks to do, which is VCP and BnB.
So you came back after 2 years?
Came back after 2 years and went into VCP, yeah.
Just got to stand up for a minute, so my back's really stiff.
Sorry. You need to get your radio. Are you done? Are you finished?
Just ignore me for a minute.
Yeah, they don't know you've been planking for the last 25 minutes.
He said planking.
Yes, planking.
So we did a couple of years.
Helen stayed in Portland, which I mean, in a way, is good because it meant that the inevitable creative separation that always happens at a certain level was really lovely and amicable, and we can still remain best friends.
And you and your wife and
small child called Lily came back.
2 years old, 3 years old.
Yeah, and a second child who was born in Portland came back too, little Nora. So we came back to VCP. And I was there for 3 years, running all kinds of things. So Transport for London, Domino's, Paddy Power and Macmillan. But I guess the thing we were going to talk about was TfL, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I was going to add was it's obviously a very shrewd move, well, on VCP's part, but yours, because, it was an agency on the rise, but I mean, now it's the biggest agency in the whole of the country. But I remember when I came in there for about a year and watched you in operation, and you were just furious. It was as in furiously busy. It was just like mad. And you just, everything you touched, you sort of won. You seem to have a great presence there. But I think the TfL thing, you told me something out when I worked there, and it was, so I can't say this word very well.
Go on.
Behemoth. It's a very big account.
It's a beast.
But you were saying how you won it was very interesting, and the billboards sort of played a part in that.
Well, I think they might still be the biggest poster advertiser in the country because you think about their
because of their estate.
Estate, exactly. So the opportunity to pitch for it came up, and I think it'd been MNC Saatchi for like 15 years. And to say it was sort of a hotly contested pitch would be understatement of the century. I think they had a long list of like 10 agencies, all of the good ones, and then we managed to get through that round and we pitched again against like AMV and I think Engine, I think it was called back then, WCRS of old and blah, 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 and Ogilvy, I think. But we managed to win it. But I think what's really interesting about it was that it was an oddly timed pitch because the pitch was in January and everyone goes, oh, the pitch is in January. Oh, God, straight after Christmas, blah, blah, blah. But in a way, it played quite well because I think as an agency, they don't change agencies very often. They 15 years at MNC. Yeah. I don't think anybody really expected us to win it. And that was quite good because what it meant was that a really small team of people, so me and the CSO, Michael Lee, and Rowley Darby, who's the business director, and a couple of creative teams, were able to pitch for it. And Ali Olga, who was the biggest bloody legend on that account, we'll talk about him more in a minute, just pitched sort of under the radar. Did our own thing, didn't really seek much approval from anybody and just did it. And Michael came to a really good thing that I'll talk about in a minute. And we won it, and we were like, Jesus Christ, how has that happened?
Yeah.
And I think it probably happened because it was single-minded and simple and didn't.
Is it that page?
Yeah.
Wow.
And really, I guess the thing that we realised, and this is, I'll do a quick break. It's not necessarily the work, but it's interesting. Two things. They'd had a new end line, which was Every Journey Matters, and I think they only had it for like 2 or 3 years. And meeting them in the chemistry meeting and meeting them in the early pitch meetings, you realised that it was a big organisation with a lot of stakeholders. And quite quickly we were thinking, crikey, it must have taken them a long time to sell that in. So what are we going to do? Come in and suggest that they change it when it's on 1,000 posters around London.
And they probably spent 3 or 4 years making that decision.
All that stuff. So we made a really early decision that we would stick with that end line. And I think that was a really good decision. And I think agencies should do that potentially more often, because if it's not broke, don't fix it out of ego. Yeah. Because in reality,
that's not the bit you need to fix.
Are people sitting and reading the bottom right hand corner of a TFL poster? Yeah. No, of course they're not in the real world. And then the second thing, and this was brilliant from Michael Lee, was this is slightly anecdotal, but we'd been told by the client that they had 27 different, I can't remember what they called them, like pillars of messaging. So different types of ads, there were 27. And so when you put all the work on a wall, which we obviously did, as we did a competitive review and looked at everything that had been done, it just looked nice, loads of really good work, but it just looked so schizophrenic. It couldn't...
Visual soup.
Complete and utter visual minestrone. So Michael worked out that actually what they needed were 3 strands. A brand strand, a kind of informational strand, and a kind of behavioural change strand, because they're the 3 types of messaging that they really do. So we went in with a pitch that did that, and you could just see the clients going, oh, well, this is easy to understand. And we put all the work on in a meeting room. Here's the brand stuff, here's the info stuff, here's the behavioural change stuff, how it might work across a few campaigns, and that you could just see them relaxing and kind of going, okay, cool. So I think
it shows a much better understanding of the brand, especially when you've got that many lines of communication.
I think they were all stressed because it was making their lives so difficult.
Yeah,
because they were having to check everything, and what you want to do is make the client's life as easy as possible.
Yeah,
and make the people writing the ads life as easy as possible. Really.
Yeah. The ones I'm looking at here, Ali was involved in everything. I remember even when I was there for a bit, he's
amazing.
But these were. What are they, Matt? What do you call these ones?
So these are the sort of safety on the network. Yeah. Don't have an accident behaviour change ads. So this is mind the gap, or don't fall over when you're pissed, or look out for quiet trams and all that sort of business.
Because they're beautifully put together. It's just a real art. This. Who did you get to? Was it the same illustrator did them all?
This set did all of them, and I knew you were going to ask me that. I've forgotten who. I forgot.
Don't worry, we'll still
credit on the website, but they're amazing.
Because the other
follow them on Instagram, but I've turned my phone off.
The other stuff was the information stuff. You used different illustrators each time.
Yeah, so they have hundreds and hundreds of messages. You know, whether it's we've got Wi-Fi on the platform at Oxford Circus, or we've made buses bigger, or there's green buses, or whatever. So, Ali and I were sort of trying to work out a way to make them feel distinct from each other enough so that you didn't think you were seeing the same message every time. But to your point, Dan, whack them on the wall and them not be visual soup, them feel like a thing. When you squint your eyes, you go, that's a thing. Yeah. So with really simple template where we do an illustration and just a really quite informational headline. And we made, I don't know how many I chucked in this deck. There's probably about 20 in here, but I don't know how many we made in the first year, probably 100.
They're really beautiful. And they are, like Dan said, they're very distinctly different from the behavioural change, the warning stuff, which is a bit more punchy and out there.
Yeah,
the other ones, I would say these have a softer voice.
I think because I guess the thing about those, there's two good things about that middle, these ones that you've got on screen, the informational ones. really good for creatives because VCP had a big creative department.
Yeah.
And you know, it's like when you inherit a brief where you've got to do the next one, it's quite hard if you have to start again and do a whole new art direction or look and feel and change. Whereas you go, okay, there's a slight formula, but you get to pick a really good illustrator and do a really fun little illustration. Yeah. And all you've got to do is write a clever, nice headline that isn't too confusing. So we'd get teams there who might have a week on that and make 6 ads, you know, which in this day and age where people don't make a lot of, sort of more traditional poster advertising would give them.
I remember doing a few.
Did you do a few?
Yeah. And I remember it was that. Not for the more established teams, but if you're a young or junior team, it's quite hard to actually get work made. And
Absolutely.
you need to learn how to make an ad, put it together, things to worry about, not worry about, and this was I always thought this was a great exercise for that. Often
using different illustrators. So how often do you get to brief an illustrator? And really, not that often. So you get a young team, they get to brief 4 illustrators in a week. Brilliant.
And just before we move on the behaviour change ones, they definitely feel like a warning. It feels like a propaganda poster that you would have seen on the tube. I feel it's themed as a stop, look and listen.
Exactly that. And the kind of briefs that you would do for that was obviously that's the safety one. So like you say, it needs to cut through and be, I mean, that, funnily enough, I came out of Oxford Circus about an hour and a half ago and that Hold the Handrail one's still up there and it still works for me. I mean,
timeless.
Again, I wrote the headlines on that. Ali did all the art direction. So I can't really claim much for those, but I think Ali Auger, head of design at VCP, I mean, he just made that account so lovely and the work's brilliant. But yeah, so things like safety, but then also things like inappropriate behaviour on the tube would have been a brief, or it was all of the things that needed you to do.
They feel warning-esque.
Yeah, and they feel the distinct look and feels, and they feel arresting and they feel urgent in some way.
So after VCP, sorry, I'm going to get near the mic. You went to BtB as CCO. So that must have been, because I remember, that's probably why we really became really good mates when I worked there at VCP for a bit. That must have been a big change, right? Going from this massive agency to BtB, which felt like more like a start-up. Was it a bit of a culture shock?
It was a bit. I mean, it was quite. I was thinking about this. My last 10 years have been Wieden & Kennedy Portland, inverted commas, most creative agency. Then into VCP, which I think if VCP taught me one thing, it was how to pitch. Because they are a machine and they are big and they are slick and that was such an incredible experience. Hard agency to work at in a positive way. But learning to pitch there, you couldn't learn anywhere better. And then, like you say, into BtB, tiny comparatively and small and not necessarily on the front foot. The inevitable had happened after the founders completed their earn-out. They'd all sort of left and it hadn't had a very stable management team. Really good people, but not necessarily at the same time working together. And it was a bit on the back foot and very small. So to go in and kind of tackle that, I think it was interesting because I was talking to a couple of places and one of them would have been a really nice, big, good job, great CV move. But it felt like it would have been quite safe to do it. Good safe, but you wouldn't have had to drop any balls and you'd have been really successful. Whereas the BtB thing was like, go in and take something on and try and do something just appealed to me more. And I guess that, I suppose, the longer you're in the industry, the more you want to do something new. And that felt like the right thing.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was amazing. Brave move.
Is there an agility to that small team though? Did you feel like you could bring some of the things that you'd had from Widen's and taught how to pitch on at VCCP?
There definitely was. I mean, it was interesting because David Bain, who was one of the founders of BtB, remained, and me and the CEO started at the same time. And the first year was quite, you can imagine, there was quite a lot of stuff to work out and quite a lot of housekeeping to do and a lot of,
cultural
changes that needed and all that sort of stuff. But once we sort of done that hard year, we hired some really brilliant people. Mel Arrow, who's now the CSO of Macallan, came in from BBH. Claudia Wallace came in as the MD from BBH too. Once we'd done that, and we got our crew together, it was really positive and really, it got going very quickly, which was brilliant.
We sorry, we're on the last bit now. We kind of need to not wrap up, but we're going to focus on BtB and obviously the two main sort of billboardy campaigns that have come out of there, and we're going to talk about breast cancer in a bit more depth after.
Okay.
But I think we'll start with Gymbox.
Yeah.
Because we mentioned that, and we've got 2 campaigns here. So there's one very recent, which we'll talk about in a sec, but this one, which has some interesting headlines. I feel like they're related to the Trident chewing gum. You cited this as a campaign you really liked working on.
I really enjoyed this. This was a team called Will and Jordan, who are brilliant creative director team. And what they observed was that everyone wants to be different. Gymbox are a different gym in London. And you know what it's like? It's all now small group personal training or people wearing very dark lycra in dimly lit rooms on Soul Cycles, or it's all taking itself a bit seriously. Whereas Gymbox are the antidote to that, and their end line for yonks has been anything goes, and it's really true. And nowhere is that borne out more than in the name of their classes.
Right.
So they don't have, don't have rope hanging. They have suspenders. They don't have boxing. They have anger management. They give these quirky names to these bonkers classes.
Right.
So what Will and Jordan realised was that if you weren't au fait with Gymbox, it's like you're speaking a foreign language.
Right.
So they thought, wouldn't it be funny to take those class names and put them into sentences that were sort of slightly incongruous to kind of dramatise how they're a different place. And great underlines. Some things only make sense at Gymbox.
Yeah. Shall I read one out? Mum, I could barely walk after doing the drill sergeant and the strongman back to back.
Yeah. Drill sergeant and the strongman being two of the classes, obviously. Yeah.
Thank you.
Never do a Sunday roast right before Swingers Club.
Again.
Brilliant.
My girlfriend switched to beast mode. I stayed in suspenders.
Are you not going to read more of the ads out? Is that you?
I thought it was thunder. Turned out to be badass.
I mean,
Badass.
not the most mature of advertising, but I thought really, really nice way of kind of speaking to their kind of classes.
That's really good. Really smart.
But then there was the But then the in between this and the most latest campaign was the bus roof incident, which makes me think, cutting him some slack, your client, he's obviously a good client. He's bought some really good work, and he's just probably keen to get out there. But the bus incident, do you think after that, then they kind of came back and that's why they did this campaign, the wings at 2 a.m., legs at 10 a.m.?
Weirdly, this campaign actually we'd presented previously, and they'd gone off and they did a quick campaign, I think, with AMV, which was nice enough. And they came back and they were like, "Oh, we've been looking through our marketing and stuff, and we found this campaign that you did that we really liked at the time. We want to make it.
Right.
So can you do that for us this year?" So we were like, "Yeah, okay." We have to dig it out and remember it. But yeah, I don't know that there was a sort of reticence to do anything as daring as the last one.
No.
I think it was more kind of trying to find. I mean, this is obviously this is the kind of contrasting the two sides of London, because everyone knows that living in London, you're trying to be healthy, but life gets in the way. So whether you're working late or whether you're out on the piss or whether you're doing whatever, that this is kind of the idea that Gymbox as a London-based gym understands the kind of opposite kind of sides of your life.
There's one that says work, clean and jerk, commute slog, downward dog. So they're very pithy. They're quick.
Wings at 2 a.m., legs at 11 a.m.
And I think, I would never go near a fucking gym. I'm a swimmer, but I can see how these attract. How they work. I think they're bang on. I think they got a great reception on our Instagram feed.
That's good.
So right, okay, we're going to leave Gymbox and we're going to move.
Am I right in thinking there was some pavement advertising as part of this? Did you do
They did probably. We had
guerrilla pavement.
Yeah, we've done quite a bit of that for them. The thing about Gymbox is they just take the assets and
they go and run with it.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So they did a partnership last week with Morley's, the chicken shop, where they did legs at 2 a.m. and wings. Nice. So it was pretty fun. And like you say, things might just pop up.
Yeah,
you kind of go.
I remember seeing some. It was graffiti on the pavements.
Yeah, I think I remember.
Yeah, they've done quite a bit of that. They tend to do that. Yeah.
Isn't it? Something about planking, something about there's handprints on the floor. You could do. It's never too early for a plank
probably.
or something.
That's good. Right, we're going to jump lanes slightly, and we're going to finish on breast cancer now. And there's a couple of brilliant, they're sort of stunty topical ads. First one made use of the Silver Jubilee. Was it the birthday?
Platinum.
Platy
Tubes.
Oh God, sorry. Yes.
Platy Tubes.
And the headline is "Mom a Gram." Tell us about that.
Yeah, so this was obviously, God rest her soul, the Queen's no longer with us, but it was obviously a platinum jubilee, and we're thinking, well, if she is, inverted commas, the most important woman in Britain, is that an opportunity to speak to all the other important women in Britain, i.e. every other woman? So we just thought it was a really nice opportunity to do a little tactical thing, and we sort of had this thought about, mammogram sounds a bit like mom, it's not the most...
Yeah, the bit before says, to all our other important women, When invited, please book your mammogram. Yes, it's bang on, isn't it?
Yeah, so just a sweet way of kind of getting out there. And again, ad van, digital ad van. That photo looks like a mock-up, but it is real. Just driving around the Macallan, as near as you could get to all the pageantry and celebration.
It's
really such
nice
a good. So, Mobile Media Group, who run all those the mobile ad vans, they're such an agile media owner to deal with, because when there's something topical, they're the ones who will jump on it and go, yeah, we could drive it here, we could put it here. Part of the problem with out-of-home media owners is they're stuck on a wall somewhere, and you have to think about the proximities. But these guys are fantastic, and they will jump on an opportunity to do something like this.
Yeah, I love stuff like this, because I think there's a really interesting thing I was going to talk about when we talk about sort of tips and stuff. But I think with things like this, timing is everything in every sense of the word, because I think what you want to be doing is you want to be presenting ideas like this, and like the next idea we're going to talk about, at the right time. You don't want to present it too early, because you can have your tactical idea for the Platinum Jubilee a year before. That's a year for it to get ruined or ignored or not become the priority. But you've got to have enough time for it to be made really well and get out there. So I think that would be my advice to creatives, is when you're doing something tactical, time your run more than you time your run on anything.
Yeah.
Because if you hit the sweet spot, things like this went out with no... It was smooth and clean and gone, and everyone liked it. And the next week it was up, and you think,
look, while we're here, let's move on, because there's also following after that was one for the Lionesses in the World Cup final. I thought this was absolutely brilliant. There was quite a few topical ads around this big occasion, but this one stood out. And again, I think it's had the most amount of likes on our Instagram feed. So the title is "We Can Beat More Than Just Spain Today." And it's an image of the centre circle, which has obviously the dot in the middle, and there's just a sort of a shadow on part of that representing the breast, and it's breast cancer now. And again, it's just a great bit of work. Was that the same thing on this, the sort of timing of it and the run up, you say?
Yeah, so this was a team called Jack and Joe at BtB, who I was on holiday. I was in France,
right,
sitting outside a restaurant. I got WhatsApp message with a mock-up of this ad kind of going, I think this was like a Thursday and the game was on Sunday, I think. Just going, we've had this idea, we think it could be really good. Obviously you're on holiday, but what do you think? And I was like, well, this is really good. You should get it mocked up. So Ted, I had a design, mocked it up. And we did this. I was reading it on the way in, actually. The conversation about this had spanned about two hours of back and forth. I'm obviously drinking red wine at some place, and it got slightly less lucid as I go through. But basically, we got to a point where it's mocked up, and I was like, right, you get that done. I'll draft an email to the client now. Brilliant client called Deanne Gardner, who I'll probably talk about a bit more in a minute. And we'll just send it. Ted, you artwork it now. We'll be on hand to artwork it. We'll get it done if they can afford something. Blah blah blah. So we basically sent it, and within about 40 minutes, they were like, well, we definitely want to do that. Definitely do it. Go, press go. Just get whatever media you can get it. And I think it got a full page in the Telegraph. It got in the Daily Mail, and then some brilliant, nice digital at home as well in some pretty prominent places. But
yeah, it's a great. I remember being in somewhere in Wales with Rach and getting a note of you going, come on, we got it. And we were trying to work out where we were going to watch the game. And then this sort of stopped me a bit, because it was like one of those, there's lots of stuff that flies around and we get stuff sent in all the time. People saying, oh, you feature this, that and the other. But this one was, I suppose because me and Dan are really invested in footy. We love footy, we love advertising, and this is a great cause. So
I think probably a lot of it is, it's like whether it's the Queen's Jubilee or something like that, football, loads of brands want to have a bash at doing something tactical, and why shouldn't they? But if you can do it for a brand that's relevant to the thing, the Queen's Jubilee is relevant to women. She is the most prominent woman in the country. The Women's World Cup final is a massive moment for women in Britain. So why wouldn't a largely female focused charity want to, I think if it aligns, all the better for tactical, don't you think?
No, absolutely perfect. And the ability to switch, 25 years ago, you wouldn't have been able to buy an outdoor campaign at the last minute like that.
No.
And with digital and with the way that media is transacted now, it means you've got an idea off a page and into media 48 hours later.
Yeah, it's amazing, really.
It's incredible.
Yeah, it's
Oh, Hugh's up again.
He's up again.
He's up again.
So we're going to finish now. What are you going to talk to?
If you lift your microphone up, we'll be able to hear you.
Hello. We're going to finish on actually not a billboard, but an extension of the breast cancer work, the chat, which I was looking at last night. There's a very good title for it. Sorry, which is it's the first ever soap opera played out on WhatsApp. Is that right?
Yeah, WhatsApp drama.
Yeah. Tell us a bit about this, because this is a phenomenal bit of work. 1-2 lines, didn't it? It's had huge talkability around it, and obviously, hopefully, it will have helped people's lives.
Yeah, it's done really well. I mean, again, to say that we have been fortunate to have a client would be understatement of the century. There's a client at Breast Cancer Now called Jan Gardner, who is, I think, probably the best client I've ever had the fortune to work with. Just gets it, really just supportive, firm, but gets it, wants good work, wants the brand to do well, wants her team to do well. And again, good client is half the battle, isn't it?
Yeah.
And basically, we'd had the account for a couple of years, and we quite deliberately started with quite responsible, I think, out of home and stuff. Because my thing was, agencies so often get a charity client, think, what's in it for us? Don't worry about the charity itself at all. Try and do some cynical, award stuff, and then no one benefits really, apart from maybe the agency. But we were like, we want a long-term relationship. Let's set up the new brand platform with some good stuff. I mean, James Day shot it, so it still looked lovely, but it was sort of just quite sensible stuff. But then the conversation that we had with the client was, it was kind of a bit referencing sort of Burger King. They're going to go, well, you might see a relatively prosaic ad for a Whopper on telly that talks about lettuce or whatever, but at the same time they're parking a bus outside Parliament or whatever. And that to do that kind of we called it kind of like campaign work and fame shots, or I think they call it like groundwork and fireworks. So you've got your responsible spine, and then you invest some of your budget in doing some brilliant stuff. And we sort of talked about that concept to the clients, and they were like, well, that sounds great. So the chat was the first real example of that. And basically the idea was, people don't talk about breast cancer enough. It's still oddly quite a taboo subject, probably because it's quite an intimate disease and quite a horrible thing to have to deal with. And what we're trying to do is get people to talk more openly about it, because if you talk more openly about it, you have less problems. It becomes normalized.
Remove the stigma.
People attend their mammograms. People can deal with it. So the idea was from Andy and Katie at BnB was to create this WhatsApp drama series. And what they realized was that people who are affected by breast cancer are talking to their friends about it, talking to their families and their loved ones about it. And the first thing you do when anything happens to you is you get onto your phone, you get on WhatsApp, and you talk to your besties about it. If something terrible is happening in your life. We've all got a WhatsApp group with our best friends and our family that we share our most intimate things in, probably before we'd actually physically talk about them. So they came in with this idea about a WhatsApp drama series, and I was like, well, I don't know what you mean. And they were like, well, you can use WhatsApp as a broadcast medium, because you can join a group as an audience member, and you're seeing brands doing it more and more. But what if we use that bit of sort of functionality of WhatsApp to tell the story in real time of a group of friends, as one of them experiences a breast cancer diagnosis? So if you imagine it lasted for 6 weeks. If you imagine it had been on TV once a week on Channel 4 on a Sunday night, you'd watch each episode. Yeah. What we did was we told a similar story, but in real time every day through WhatsApp messages, videos, voice notes.
So if you join the group, you
would not be able to contribute because you're only allowed to observe.
You're viewing,
But you would see Lisa messaged, oh, my husband's been a right pain in the ass, blah, blah, blah. Oh, God, I'm so hungover. They're just talking, just life. Yeah. And then about 4 or 5 days in, one of them gets diagnosed with breast cancer. And then you see them navigate that diagnosis together. And what we did, I think quite cleverly, what the creative guys said was, well, what if we, if someone you knew was diagnosed with breast cancer, it's not beyond the pale that you would find something on the Breast Cancer Now website that would give them some advice. So I found this link about whatever, and it would just gently peppered within the story. You could give advice on what books to read to your child to explain that you've got ill or whatever. And it was all, voice notes, videos, stills, loads and loads of stuff, 130-page script. And then
the creative team write that, or do they?
They wrote the entire script. We wrote it all together. Or they wrote it, and then we did a really funny thing. We went to the breast cancer office and Breast Cancer Now office and did a table read. So the creative team, me and Bianca, the other creative director on it, reading this 130-page script with me playing some lady. So I quite enjoyed it.
I bet you did.
But it was amazing. Clancy, our producer, managed to get some incredible cast members. So we got Indira from Game of Thrones. Reiki's got a BAFTA,
Wow.
et cetera, and they did it obviously not for very much money. But then the hardest bit was the delivery. So everyone thinks there must be a really clever way to deliver that. Or what it actually was 4 new iPhones, each with a SIM card in it that represented one of the characters, labelled, and Andy and Katie, the creative team, spending 12 hours a day in their flat for 6 weeks, sending based on a schedule in exactly the right order the messages.
Jesus.
I mean, what an undertaking. It's just unbelievable.
Wow.
And then how would I, if I was a woman in the target market, get this?
So no, that's a great question. So basically what we did was we had a massive push for celebrities, influencers, prominent female journalists, all that, those kinds of high profile people to become the audience in WhatsApp. So they signed up. So say there were hundreds of women in that group, and then Harry Styles' mum was in it,
right,
randomly,
yeah.
And then we sort of half begged / encouraged them to then post snippets of it on their own socials. So what it meant was that it just groundswell of stuff, and the reality is, and it's a weird thing to say this, didn't really matter who saw it. Really, because it was its long tail of kind of PR that helped. So,
I know what you're saying. As soon as you're there,
sort of counterintuitive. Because you think, there's only a few hundred people in this group, doesn't matter. Because Anne Twist, Harry Styles' mum's got 6 million followers, so they've seen the trailer.
6 million?
Yeah, mental.
What I love about this is because I know you've written a comedy series as well. So you've already way back in time you've done that, and to say, I sat in a room, we did a read. You must have pulled on that experience, but in a really brilliant way. So it's nothing is wasted, is it? In our lives, we write stuff and think, fuck, is that going to help me?
Andy and Katie, the creative team, had been actors in a previous life, so they were brilliant. They came in, they worked. It's just it's again all reassuring for a client and stuff.
Nice. It is interesting, this job, isn't it? For all of us, you always think, you're just pulling on all parts of your life, aren't you? In a way, or things you've done. It always feels never wasted to me. Right, we're going to have to wrap up.
Sure,
Matt. Thanks so much you've been so generous.
Table.
We're going to end the ending sequence with your favourite ever billboard.
Well, how predictable it's an Economist ad.
Yay, we haven't had one of those for ages.
Yeah, we haven't.
No.
I think I saw this ad and I fucking hated Tim Riley for writing it whilst wanting to hug him and being jealous.
Yeah.
Right. Somebody mentions Jordan. You think of a Middle Eastern country with a 3.3% growth rate. Is there a better ad? Is there a better ad than that? Bear in mind, you need a bit of context. At the time, Jordan, now Katie Price, is the most famous woman in Britain, not necessarily for the right reasons. This is the perfect misdirect. The specificity of its growth rate makes that line amazing.
Yeah.
It's just a perfect headline. I think it's brilliant.
You very kindly shared with us a sort of, because this folds into your next bit about tips.
Oh yeah.
So you sent us a lovely thing, which I think I'm going to benefit from as well. It's about just great.
He's not going to post it. He's just going to hold it, isn't he?
About great copywriting and tips. And I think, does this sort of feed into it that you're, the specificity. Thank you, Matt. That was a coffee, wasn't it, earlier? That's what makes stuff funny, doesn't it?
Yeah, I always think things like that. I mean, you talk about, I've given you a deck of stuff, but it's nothing from me. It's just a shit ton of really, really good ads that I like the writing in that I haven't written. Right. But yeah, you whack it on the site or something. But I think, specificity, things like that. I think becoming you have to be you have to be able to write, obviously. Base in your soul somewhere, you'll be able to write stuff, but you can make yourself better, and you make yourself better by consuming loads of writing that's brilliant.
Yeah, because it can't help but influence you. I was saying to some of the younger teams at Neverland about that Tony Kaye thing about go out into the world, be a recorder, and look. Don't just surround yourself with advertising, which you should, because that's your industry, but then go and absorb plays and films and dance all night and do mad shit, and then you start to it just feeds back into itself, doesn't it?
I think people as well get the thing I've always sort of thought is what you want to leave behind when you finish your career, and no one's got a legacy because it's advertising and no one cares, but I like the idea that an ad that was written in 2008 could run tomorrow
Yeah.
Maybe you'd have to refilm it to make it look modern, but the idea and the way it's crafted should be the same.
Yeah.
So I think if you do that, then you can help yourself to have a longer career, and you can, if you don't do things that are just quick turnaround and jumping on something trendy for the sake of it. If you've got universal ideas that come from a truth, I mean, this sounds like bloody Tony, but
that's true.
Universal idea comes from a truth about the product and is executed well, then that's great.
Yeah. This is a great deck. I mean, this is for everyone. We'll share this.
Oh yeah, do. I mean, it's just that I was just sort of, when I was getting young teams in, I would always just sort of go
it's funny. There's
go away and read loads of good writing, and you sort of think, well, where are they going to find that? So I just thought I'd whack it all into a deck. But these are some of the greatest ads ever.
Yeah, it's great.
The ads that we seen in the history books.
Yeah, it's just
actually quite a few have been featured. We've had quite a few of the people on, which is really good for us. Like a nice echo to some of the stuff we've had.
Amazing.
Right, I think we're going to have to wrap it up, aren't we?
We are.
Cool.
Thank you very much for having me. Coming in.
I really enjoyed
so much. Really, we loved it. I wish we'd chat longer, but yeah.
But we'll get kicked out.
Yeah.
Someone else.
All right. Thank you, mate.
No worries. Thanks for having me, guys. Cheers.
That was great, Matt. Did you enjoy meeting Matt?
Oh,
was that first
amazing.
Time?
Yeah, first time I met him. Yeah, that was really, really good.
Yeah, he doesn't disappoint, does he? He's got that lovely mix of he's really passionate and into the work, but he's actually a fucking great guy. Just great to hang out with.
Amazing people that he's worked with as well. It's just like,
and
like you said at the end there, it's like, be a sponge, and if you can do that with your work and in your life, you're going to make great things happen.
Yeah, and he's always open. I remember when I went to VCP for quite a while, and I sat opposite him, and he was the one person who was just always there and
didn't bully you. The one person who didn't bully you.
They didn't get my cap and throw it in the air. That was Scouts, actually. That's why I left the Scouts.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's. I can see that's an actual trauma.
Didn't like that. Yeah.
That came very quickly there.
Quick.
That was
that
really.
thing you saying about singing in Cannes as well.
Yeah, that was quick.
I do have my.
It's a burn, isn't it?
I do have my moments. But so Matt and I have always been in touch and mates. And then, so I've worked with him at BtB as well. So yeah, but we wanted to get him for ages.
Amazing.
So,
Absolutely amazing.
Some of the work, I mean, that bit of the breast cancer stuff is just.
Yeah, I mean, I remember I judged that at Creative Circle this year, on 2023. And it prompted lots of discussion around topical ads and stuff. So it was really good. Really
I'm on the. I should have said I'm on the gold jury this year.
Me too. They've asked me to go on for writing.
What?
I know.
Shit. So hopefully we're not in the same room. Otherwise, that's going to.
What are you going on? Which one are you doing?
Outdoor something.
But basically we've swapped then, haven't we?
Maybe I'm outdoor radio and something else. So
okay.
Yeah, turn my speciality.
Maybe I should turn up as you and you should turn up as me.
Very difficult, mate.
when you're that recognised
on a wagon. But
right, listen.
Yeah,
I've got an actual day job to get to.
Right,
so
let's go.
First of all, we have to thank our sponsors, Talon and Grand Visual. Now,
yeah, and thank you,
sharing the burden.
Yeah, Grand Visual and Talon. Thank you for everything. Before, during, and in the future. And thank you, Soho Radio, again. Great start. Esmeralda, thank you today for looking after us.
Yeah, Rachel's ditched us.
Yeah, well, you blame her. And looking forward to our roster of guests.
Oh, my God. Over the next couple of weeks, we've got an incredible lineup coming your way, folks. So
and if
keep
anyone
and following and suggesting on our socials.
And if anyone can help us get Helen Rhodes on, we'll pay money.
Well, I mean, we should probably get Matt to just phone her.
But I've also asked Rachel Miles. So Rachel is a CD at Meanwhile. We're trying to get Rachel on anyway, but Rachel knows Helen. So anyway, we're going to keep banging that drum. But
I'm just going to go and walk into their office and sit there until she tells us.
Just walk in with a microphone.
Yeah,
just start.
Hey.
Right, better go.
See ya.
Bye.